Good afternoon, everyone. This is the meeting of the Standard Advisory Council on Religious Education, SACRE, which is being held at County Hall on Wednesday, the 5th of February, 2025, and it's 4 o'clock. So the first item on the agenda is introductions and apologies for absence. Any apologies, please?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from J Miller, T Thorne, D Vandervelde, C Curtis and J Simpson.
Okay, but we are quorate.
Yeah.
We are quorate, so that's good. I should just mention that Stuart Dearlove, who has been on this council for many years, has resigned due to ill health, and we have sent him a card.
I have spoken to him, and we will send him a letter.
We'll send him a letter, so to thank him for his good service over the years. I suppose we have a new member. I've written it down somewhere. Okay, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, I'm Ella Sutcliffe. I'm a teacher at Croftway Academy in Blythe. I lead RE within my own school and across the 13 schools within my academy trust.
Okay, good. And I suppose we should introduce ourselves, seeing you don't know.
Thank you.
So
I'm Dave. We've spoken over email, Ella. I'm Head of School Improvement with the local authority.
and I'm Catherine Seymour, County Council and Chair of SACRE, and also represent Berwick North. And
I'm Andrew Duffield. I represent the NASUWT.
I'm Councillor Les Bowman, County Councillor for Hollywood Ward.
I'm Nick Morfitt. I'm County Councillor for Holmsoft.
I'm Ros Kant. I'm a teacher at Quagside Church Primary School in Pearson.
I'm Claire Dixon and I'm the Royal Catholic representative.
all right, so the next item on the agenda is the minutes. And we'll have a copy if we go through page by page. And if anyone has any questions or comments, please ask me through the chair. So item 1, page 1, I mean, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. Any questions or anything else? I'd like to just ask for on item 26, there was councillors Bowman and Morfitt mentioned would be interested in being responsible for the bid of West Hill funding to run a project in the schools. I don't know if you have any updates on that.
Yeah, sure. So I asked Joyce afterwards if she'd be keen to help me to organise it, and she said she would be. And we've had a couple of phone calls since and exchanged lots of emails, but we haven't bottomed out where it would be, when it would be, who it would be for, what the topic would be, and how we'd fund it. But because we were struggling to reach decisions on these important things, we decided that a survey that was sent out to teachers would be a good way forwards. So we've prepared a survey. Don't know if Joyce has shared it with Dave yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so I think it's ready to be shared with Dave.
Well,
Oh,
we're going to have a bit, yeah.
yes. We've also asked Claire if she'd be keen to join us. We were going to have a chat about it before this meeting if my train wasn't delayed. And Joyce couldn't make it either. So yeah, we need to catch up with the three.
The three of us are going to catch
So
up.
that's obviously why it hasn't been submitted to Dave yet.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll get it submitted soon. We might need to make some tweaks first. At the minute, one of the questions in the survey is what topics would you like the conference to cover? Now, personally, I would like this conference to be about the power of RE to unite communities. And I've even come up with a catchy title for the conference, which would be RE Unite. If we do ask the teachers what topics they want us to cover, I'm hoping they say the power of RE to unite communities. If they don't, I'll be disappointed. That's one of the things we're going to have to talk about.
It's one of the things, yes, we want to talk about, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we are.
We'd obviously want to wait for Joyce to be able to.
Okay.
It might be worth me mentioning that we've ruled out all of the funding sources that we've looked at as not being suitable. I didn't double check, but I think the West Hill funding says that it's for a 2-year project that culminates in a conference. And we ruled it out on the basis that we just wanted to do a conference rather than a 2-year project. But I'm just wondering if it might be that the West Hill funding is our best bet and then this needs to be a 2-year project that culminates in a conference. It's something that we need to discuss as a 3 possibly.
All right. Thanks very much. Okay. Next item on the agenda is disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest from anyone? Unless already entered on the council's register of members' interest, that's for members, but if anyone else has any. See none? Okay. We'll go to item 4, which is an update of contacts with schools and training provision. This was to receive an update from Caroline Weir, she's a part-time RE consultant, about the provision of RE in service training and contacts with schools since the last related meeting, but she's not here today. So Officer Dave is going to give us an update.
Yeah, Kaz has sent me an update, so I'll just take you through what she said. There was the autumn term network in November. 16 colleagues attended that. The theme of that meeting was responding to the Ofsted RE report. So they spent some time looking at the key findings, thinking about how the key findings were reflected or not in their school. And then spent the rest of the session looking at ways of knowing, which, as you remember, was the title of that particular report. One thing that some of those colleagues at that meeting were going to do was going to use the audit tool to see which disciplinary lenses they might or might not be using, and then bring that to the next meeting. The spring network meeting will take place on the 13th of March. There are a number of people signed up already. So again, that will continue the conversation around disciplinary knowledge. We've got the RE lead from Berwick St Mary's and Norham Church of England schools, Alicia, presenting her work at that one. And then in the summer at the network meeting, Jamie Woodhouse has agreed to present. Jamie contacted us last year and wanted to do some work with Northumberland colleagues. So we finally managed to pin him down. He's going to be talking about sentientism. And how you weave non-religious worldviews into the RE curriculum. I'm hoping that will be recorded so that we can use that as another piece of the recorded training that we've already got. So that would be really helpful. In terms of the recorded training that Kaz has put together, we've had some schools access that training, not many. 6 have accessed the Hindu Dharma training. 6 have accessed the Jewish worldviews, 10 the Muslim worldviews, 1 the Sikh worldviews. So there are 6 schools in particular who have basically used 3 out of the 4, which is really good. Some are dipping in and out, but I think we need to try and broaden that to more schools because it's really high quality stuff.
It really is everything that Kaz does. And I find it very, very useful.
It's again, it's just whether or not that message is out there as much as it needs to be. Kaz has had contact with a number of other schools. We've had questions about religious artefacts, visits and visitors. So again, we've directed them to the RE hubs or the Religious Resources Centre. And there are 2 schools have requested specific support. One being the Bellingham schools, and one being Shankly primary school in Cramlington. So Kaz is currently organising dates to go and visit those two. In summary, the numbers attending the networks are getting larger, but not quite as quickly as we would like. And the CPD has been very well received. There's just not as many people accessing it as we would want. So we've got really good stuff in place. We just need to broaden the reach of it.
Thank you.
Problem?
Any questions on that?
What was the, you mentioned sentientism?
Sentient.
Yeah, it sounds much.
Sentientism.
I'll send you the date and you can attend and listen. How's that?
I'll Google it first.
Yeah, how do you spell that?
SENTIENT-ism.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so item 5 is information from the Department for Education for members to receive and discuss the response received from the Department of Education following questions submitted from SACRE.
Yes, so June last year, you asked me to contact the DfE about how and why they collect certain bits of data in the census. So the first part of this piece of paper titled Communication between the DfE Northumberland and SACRE. The first question and the first answer are the ones that we talked about at the last meeting. So just to reiterate what we said, they basically copied and pasted the school workforce census guide, really, to talk about the rationale behind the census. So then at the last meeting, SACRE asked me to ask the DfE why, if completion of the census for schools was a statutory requirement, what the process of follow-up for schools that either don't complete or partially complete their return is. And so you'll see at the bottom half of the second side, a reply from Tony Clark, which says, in advance of the collection, we emailed those schools who didn't return data the previous year to remind them of their obligation. And that's about it. So it's compulsory, but there's no real follow-up. And as you'll see from the data when we look at it shortly, there are clear examples of Northumberland schools that haven't completed the census. And so, although it's compulsory, there is no real follow-up from the DfE.
Right, so Councillor Moffat?
Although it does say at the bottom, in advance of the deadline, my colleagues contact each school with incomplete or no data. So they get a final reminder.
They do, but when you look at this, there's still data that's not there.
Yeah.
So
There are. It's not effective.
flaws in their system. I
Yeah.
would suggest.
But actually, I'm reasonably satisfied with that answer because they are trying.
No, they're absolutely right. No, they're trying. But that, if this information is what we have to base our decisions and plans on, and it's always going to be incomplete or more than likely to be incomplete, it does make our job that bit more difficult. But then when you think of the number of schools across the country they're trying to gather data from, then it must be a very difficult job to keep on top of it. But I have followed it up, and that's the response I got.
Right, and so the next update would be January 2026. So that's
So
this.
when we when we get on to the workforce data, shall we talk about that under number 7?
We can. All right, thank you very much for that. And item 6 is the key stage 4 and 5 outcomes 2024. For members to receive and discuss the responses received from schools following questions submitted at the previous meeting around provision of RE.
Yeah.
Dave?
So again, at the last meeting, there were a number of questions that you asked me to pose at particular schools. So the piece of paper with the staple in has those questions and the responses I've received from those particular schools. The first question was about why there was no Key Stage 5 provision at Queen Elizabeth High School in Hexham. The response describes how many years ago Take-up was low. Therefore, the board decided to withdraw RE completely in the hope to preserve philosophy. Philosophy numbers are also low, and currently GCSE numbers are also very low. So they don't think that A-level will be viable in the next year or two. However, there is a new head of RE who is keen to grow the subject. So potential green shoots for Key Stage 5. Elizabeth. The second question was around why there was no Key Stage 4 provision at 4 particular secondary or high schools. Again, the responses under each one. From Astley High School, no pupils wanted to take GCSE RE. On top of that, they've had the RE teacher has left, so they are in a very difficult position with regard to RE, I would suggest. Berwick Academy have had trouble recruiting specialist teachers, have tried different ways of putting RE into the curriculum, and are back to having discrete RE lessons. I don't think, but I'm not entirely sure, I don't think they are taught by specialists, but they are hoping that it will be an option at Key Stage 4 in the future, but there is no guarantee to that. James Calvert Spence have struggled with RE teaching in the past. So previously it was taught on simple drop-down days, and I had spoken to James Calvert Spence in the past about the fact that I didn't think that was necessarily the most appropriate way to teach RE. They did change that from September 23, but their view at the moment is that the pupils don't have enough knowledge picked up in years 7, 8, 9 to be able to cope with the GCSE in 10 and 11. So their plan is, once they feel that RE is better embedded lower down the school, then they'll offer it at Key Stage 4 and 5. Final one was the Blythe Academy. Again, they suggest that there hasn't been an uptake of RE at Key Stage 4. They do cover RE in their life curriculum, but there aren't enough pupils wanting to take it as a GCSE, is their suggestion. The third question was contacting schools who didn't have many Key Stage 4 pupils taking the exams, but actually those pupils did a really good job, and whether or not there was anything that SACRE could do to support them in increasing the numbers from small numbers to higher numbers. Bedlington Academy responded talking about the constraints of the EBAC curriculum. So we have discussed before that to achieve an EBAC, Key Stage 4, pupils have to take a humanities subject. RE is not counted as one of those humanities subjects. So RE is not classed as a humanities for EBAC. Geography and history are. Bedlington's view is that if RE was an option, then there may be a greater take-up, because schools up until recently have been expected to increase the numbers of pupils taking an EBAC curriculum in their school. So subjects like design technology, which isn't an EBAC subject, and RE have suffered in terms of uptake as a result of central government's desire for the majority of its pupils to take EBAC curriculum. So that's their view. Ramlington Learning Village didn't respond at all. Queen Elizabeth High School, as we've said, have talked about their new head of RE who's keen to learn subjects. And Duchess's Community High School talk about staffing changes and the fact that that's destabilised their department. They fear it is more stable now, and they think that numbers will increase due to the fact that staffing is stable. The final question was asking what particular schools are doing to fulfil their statutory requirements. You will see links there, and obviously Rebecca will put this out electronically to you in the minutes. There are links there to the school's website, and the link will take you directly to the curriculum pages, which describes what is in the RE syllabus, in the RE curriculum at each of those schools. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions from members?
Yes. If, for example, they've got a deep dive in religious education in the schools.
Yep.
I mean, would they say that, would the Ofsted take that as an excuse? I don't think so.
Ofsted don't necessarily look at the numbers,
The quality.
they would be looking at the quality. And if the new Ofsted framework from September comes to pass, there will be no deep dives from September 25.
Okay.
But yes, we have very few. I think we've had,
It's to me, it's very sad.
yeah, I completely agree. We might have had two, I'd have to check the numbers. We certainly had an RE deep dive at Seg Hill Primary in their first inspection, and then it was dived in on, what's the past tense of dived? Dove into it when they went back, and they did see a great improvement. But yes, it is definitely a risk.
Yeah,
But if you can't get the specialist teachers, I mean, we're very
I know.
grateful that we've got them here. But as you will well know, in many schools, there aren't the specialist staff, which makes teaching it much more difficult.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question, just on the Berwick Academy, because they'll be going from a 3 to a 2 tier in the near future.
Yep.
So that would probably make a bit of a difference, will it? Or do you think?
Well, it'll mean there's more pupils in the secondary school to teach RE2, but whether or not they have the staff to be able to plan that curriculum and teach that curriculum as SACRE would like, I wouldn't know. There is support available to all of the schools in the Berwick partnership for transition, and that includes RE. So the support is there.
And there'll be a couple of grades staying longer in the primary schools anyway. So
whether the academy want to take that support is up to them.
They haven't advertised for an RE teacher,
no?
not a specific specialist role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. So now we go on item 8, which is the Holocaust Memorial Day.
Item 7.
Did I miss one? I'm sorry. The workforce data. Pages 17 to 20.
The 17 to 20 was what was sent by Deborah Weston, but the solid version that she sent, I think, yesterday, and you have a copy of, is the cleaner version that might be far easier to read and understand.
Yeah, and so this was info from November 23 and GCSE summer 24, so 15 months, and then the next update will be January 26. So any questions on this? Yes, Councillor.
I was just considering funding. Is the pressures of funding in schools, is that one of the reasons why there's a shortage of RE teachers? Or is it a national problem where they are not being trained, as it were?
It's a national problem. There aren't that many training providers for RE anymore. And I think when you look at the RE Hub's newsletter that arrived about 5 to 4, I think the top headline in there is about the shortage of RE teachers in the North East. So it's not to do with funding, it is to do with training. But I think there are structural issues, in particular around the EBAC that we just mentioned, that mean that RE has got a more difficult job attracting pupils to take it at Key Stage 4 and then on to Key Stage 5 than other subjects do.
I think that's more of an issue than the lack of teachers. I mean, when I first trained and qualified as a teacher, it was as an RE teacher, as an RE specialist, because there was shortage then, that's 12, 13 years ago. And I struggled to get a job in Northumberland. There weren't the opportunities, although I was told it was a shortage subject, and it still is, obviously, nominally. But it's supply and demand, isn't it? If there's not enough children wanting to take the subject, why do you need a teacher?
But it is a compulsory subject, so
Yeah,
every
it
school
is.
will need
Well, it-
RE provision.
Indeed, and there are schools, in fact, going back to what you were talking about earlier, there have been schools who've been criticised by Ofsted for not even providing RE on their curriculum in this county. So, it doesn't exist in some schools, and therefore, why do you need a teacher?
And going back to the workforce data, this would suggest that there is no RE at Berwick Academy or the Blythe Academy or Duchess's Community High School.
Well, it wasn't on the curriculum at all in Berwick until I think last year or this year.
So whether or not there is no RE in those schools, or they haven't done their census return, is the question. Now, I know fine well that there isn't for Duchesses. The Blythe Academy, in their response to me and the agenda point we just talked about, said it's taught through their life curriculum. So again, the fact that this data is from November 23, we're now in February 25, and we can't necessarily trust the validity of it, does make me wonder whether it's really worth detailed discussion. The key stage 4 figures towards the right of the table are more accurate, and of course we discussed those. We discussed those last term.
Okay, Councillor Moffat.
Thanks. Is this the finalised data? You mentioned that the workforce data that was presented to you in that meeting was provisional. Is this the finalised?
So these the GCSE data.
Both.
The GCSE data, there is an update coming in this month. We don't know what date it will be. There will be minimal changes. The workforce data is what's been sent by Deborah Weston, so I'd assume that's finalised.
Do you know how it compares with the provisional data? I
It's
can't see any obvious changes.
very similar.
Yeah. Could I also ask, in the original agenda, there was more columns in the table. And
Yep.
I was going to ask that they were let in on some, but because they're not in the new table, I'm wondering if they're actually maybe not important.
Absolutely. Well, that was why I took them out, because I thought there was a lot of duplication. There were a number of tables that I didn't think necessarily added to the discussion. So whether or not what their Ofsted rating is, I don't think that has a direct relevance to the number of hours of RE they're teaching. I think that would be a separate discussion. And whether or not there was a high or low level of pupil premium, again, I didn't think there was a link between that and RE, so I took that out.
Can I also point out that there's no information on whether these hours of RE teaching were taught by specialist teachers, is there?
No.
So presumably that's something which it would be very helpful to know, but we don't have any data on.
We don't have data on that, man.
Yeah.
Again, we can ask. It depends on what we would do with that data. I mean, if we're going to ask for something, we would need to have a strong reason for taking at the time of schools to ask the question. Sure. But if there was a real reason for us to do that, then I would be happy to do so.
I mean, but definitely for the lower down, there's so much support given by Northumberland County Council and with the scheme and everything. I would think non-specialist teachers, if they did the background work, could teach it. So, and if people could really put their mind to it, even if they weren't a specialist teacher, they could do a really good job. To my mind, the important thing is we may not have the specialist teachers, but RE needs to be taught.
Yes.
There's no two ways about that. In our world that we live today, one of the things that we were talking about is community cohesion. The wonderful thing with SACRE is you're with people from different faiths and different denominations. And I know my children at school, when we started the new curriculum, we were doing creation. I thought, I don't know how this is going to go down. They loved it. And the way they brought in recycling, everybody was so excited. And, you want to continue with that enthusiasm, which the document certainly does help to bring out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, councillor Bowman.
Yeah, putting my statistician's head on and having a look at the figures, especially for key stage 4. And then withdrawn my statistician thinking and thinking about the realities that are taking place within those schools. I'm beginning to wonder if it's about leadership in the school and not so much about the actual data, but it's about the leadership in those schools, because we've got 3 schools. One of them is obviously Church of England school, and you've got Bede Academy, which is a Christian school, and you've got Ponteland High, and I don't know the ethos of that school, but those figures are quite high. So it's about the leadership, isn't it? It's about those who are setting the parameters within the school itself. So I don't. If the leadership in all the schools were on that sort of wavelength, wouldn't it change right across the board? Or is that just wishful thinking?
Dave?
I think Ponteland High School is a good example in that the vast majority of pupils take RE. So if you construct your Key Stage 4 curriculum in such a way that subjects are compulsory, then yes, absolutely, you could do that with any subject at all. But there are only a limited number of choices pupils are able to make. So if you fill one box with RE, that means there is something that would not be as successful in that school in terms of take up, because one box has been filled up with RE. So yes, it is about leadership. It just depends on the philosophy of the school and where they feel that they, where they steer pupils toward. So the vast majority of pupils at Key Stage 4 will do a suite of EBAC subjects. So that's English, maths, science, a language and a humanities, and then have a number of choices. The number of free choices depends on the curriculum model of the school. So there are some schools in Northumberland that I think only do 8 GCSEs. That allows more time to concentrate on maths and English and basic skills. There are others that will do up to 11, which means that pupils can study more GCSEs, but maybe not in the depth, in as much depth as some of those schools that do fewer. But that is a school decision. That decision is not made by the local authority. That's up to the schools to decide what they feel is most appropriate for their cohort.
Sad, isn't it? Yeah.
Any other questions? No. So the next item is item 8, the Holocaust Memorial Day. And just to discuss it, I attended, and so did Councillor Moffat. I don't know if anyone else did. Everyone was invited, but
I was unable to. I sent my apologies.
so, but it was very good. We had the Rabbi Lipsy there. We raised the flag, and there was some blessings and the service, and the leader of the council, Glenn Sanderson, spoke, as well as the civic head. And there were some schools. It was the Refugee and Asylum Seeker Youth Club, young people's reflection of theme for a better future. And there was a recording of a personal story. Collingwood School read a poem, Fear by Eva Kova. There was the Refugee and Asylum Seekers, 10 Stages of Genocide. And a poem read, can't pronounce that. Lolo.
YOLO.
Lolo. Lolo.
YOLO.
Lolo.
YOLO.
Lolo. Lewis. So it was very good. It was well attended. There were lots of people there, and so it was very, very moving. It's the update from the Holocaust Day. And then we have item 9, which was the activist sectors in 2024. That's pages 21 to 28, and it's for members to read the article by lay on activist SACREs in 2024. 35 plus things a good SACRE can do and bring to the meeting ideas which Northumberland SACRE may be interested in completing. So that's really just for members to read. I don't know if anyone wanted to make any comments or questions. Yes, Councillor Moore.
One question or comment. First of all, it's Lat Laylock. I think that's a small type.
Thank you for correcting.
Agenda. I just wanted to mention the first of 35 points. It's on page 22.
Page 22.
Point number 1.
Pardon?
Point number 1.
Point number 1.
It suggests asking the local authority for more money or offering to raise money by being entrepreneurial. Now, we discussed asking the local authority for more money, but we decided it was probably what you might call a zero-sum game, where another area would suffer as a result of SACRE getting more. So we haven't gone down that route. I was just interested by what Lat says about raising money through being entrepreneurial. I don't have a brilliant suggestion to make, unfortunately, but I just wondered if anyone did, or if anyone knew what other SACREs have done in terms of being entrepreneurial. Because, if there's another way, let's look into it. Maybe we need to ask.
To see about funding, I suppose you'd have to have something in mind to ask for the funding for. I mean,
Well, we have discussed whether or not to ask for the funding, and we don't think that's a good idea. So if somebody's got a good idea, I'm not doing a cake sale, all right? For anybody else's. I'm not doing a cake sale. But if we were to secure some money, then it may be that we can subsidise the cost of a conference.
So sorry, Nick, do you want to continue?
No, I just wanted to put it out there. Really.
yeah.
So if we go to a conference in an LA establishment, would we have to pay?
Depends on where it was.
I see.
I'm not sure that anywhere would necessarily be big enough. The biggest barrier will be the cost of transport.
Yes,
So
indeed.
that's where we will find it will make or break the conference.
The survey covers that, so it could be quite helpful.
Yeah, that's a definite question. I mean, to me, some of the things that are covered in here, you could, depending if you were using students, because again, as you say, it's the money to transport. Believe you me, I fully understand. If you were using students, you'll be able to maybe offer activities that are suggested in here in workshops. So that would cover that. But I mean, obviously, it's a big conference to get ideas together and see who it's going to be for initially. But I mean, I was reading through this, I thought, well, for example, there was some of the students might be interested in doing the arts, some might be good at writing, or they could choose workshops to go to, which are going to cover some of this. But as I say, the conference is going to be decided on first.
Joyce has spoken to a couple of colleagues in other parts of the country who've organised conferences.
I know, I read the last comment.
I get the impression that they were aiming to cover their costs rather than make any money.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think a conference is likely to be a way of raising money.
All right. I don't know what we want to do about that. Bring that back another time to see if anyone comes up with anything.
I'd like to ask people to have a think about it and come back with ideas.
Okay. So the next is item 10, SACRE Constitution Working Group. And that's for members to be updated on the progress of the proposed SACRE Constitution. And Dave's been talking to legal on that. I think we have to, in order to change the constitution, it has the county constitution would need to be changed. So we need to that needs to go to the AGM, probably at the end of May. And do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so there were a few amendments requested by Councillor Morfitt, which will be absolutely fine. So the constitution is 99.8% as it was previously. There are just those repetition has been removed. That is currently sitting with the legal team. Neil Masson, who is head of legal, will write a report for the council's AGM, which takes place on the 21st of May, outlining the changes that need to be made for the SACRE constitution to be adopted. Assuming that council agree with Neil's report, then we can enact the constitution after that point. Bear in mind there are elections at the beginning of May as well, so who might be in attendance at that AGM? I'm not entirely sure. The other thing to just bear in mind is the fact that the government are currently undertaking a curriculum review, which is going to report back this year. Now, whatever they report back this year won't be enacted straight away, but I don't know what they might or might not say about the provision of RE and whether or not they decide that the system of every local authority having a SACRE is the right one or not. So I think there are two things at play. One, there is the path that we're going down with the amended constitution. If we can have that adopted on the 21st of May, then that will give us the perceived freedoms to do slightly differently what we are currently doing. But then we'll have to see what that curriculum review reports back at some point during this year as to whether we need to change again or what will be required of SACREs going forward. Have we got when's the next meeting, Rebecca?
Haven't been decided yet. It gets decided at the AGM.
No, we don't have one yet.
Right, so this could well be our last meeting under the current constitution, and our next meeting might be under the new constitution. But obviously, in the meantime, I'll keep you updated once I hear from legal and from the AGM in May.
Any questions on? Yes, Councillor.
You're right, did you say that the review might lead after being scrapped?
Well, it's a possibility. It is the only subject by which every local authority has to make its own decisions. Every other subject, I think, has a national plan. And there are reasons why RE doesn't have a national plan, but whether or not they change that to bring it into line with other things or do something completely different, we don't know. We don't know.
Are you saying that the RE curriculum might be, or syllabus might be determined at a national level and therefore SACREs would lose one of their purposes?
That is a possibility.
Yeah, right.
But I have no inside knowledge at all.
Okay, the next item is item 11, the Northumberland SACRE Action Plan, pages 29 to 30, for members to discuss the Northumberland SACRE Action Plan for the academic year 2024.
No, 24.
24.
It started in September.
Oh, right.
Through to July.
Okay, so that's page 9. Did you want to speak on that?
It's just if anybody has any particular updates. Number 6, work with the Governor Service so that school governors understand the law and are able to provide challenge support to their school. Again, that's in process. But as I've just mentioned with the curriculum review, that may change the following year, but we will certainly be able to provide a training video for governors in the near future. Number 9, seek other partners with a view to hosting the Anne Frank exhibition or another major exhibition in Northumberland. We did talk at the last meeting about a particular exhibition that had been on at Hexham Abbey, was called
Sacred Threads.
Sacred Threads, that's right, which I did have a look at and it did look excellent. But we do need a SACRE member to take responsibility for seeking those partners. I wondered if anybody might like to volunteer or not.
Well, there are other members that aren't here today. Maybe they would like to, if Rebecca could put in that request to all members.
I think I'd rather focus on the conference.
Yeah. And it may well be that doing that as well spreads the available people too thinly. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't put things off on the action plan at all.
Mhm.
Going back to
All right.
number 7, does that, there's a question mark there, not, I feel if that does not link in with the conference?
Sorry, yes,
Yeah,
that should
Westfield.
say councillor Morford and councillor Bowman.
Bowman,
were what I remember from the last meeting.
yes, and spoke about it. So there's
Yeah.
Claire, Joyce.
To Leslie about it, but you're very welcome to join. But I have spoken to Joyce at quite a bit of length and Claire more recently.
All right.
And I'm happy to write the Westfield bid if we decide.
You're happy to write the bid?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm letting myself in for there. But I'll have to get the deadline. I think it's March.
Is it March?
Could all help.
Joyce will keep you right.
Joyce is very good.
Joyce will keep you
Yes, it's
right.
excellent.
Yeah, she will. She's probably written it. Okay. So item 12 is the Northumberland SACRE newsletter and resources webpage. And just just a reminder of the website, which you'll have, which is www.northumberlandeducation.co.uk/SACRE. Do you have any?
Yes, the newsletter has been viewed 738 times
Oh.
since September 2022. It's not that, it's not from this September, sadly.
Oh,
We only get total numbers.
oh.
I would imagine probably a couple of hundred of them are me editing it. And the page on the Northumberland Education site, which links to all the training and so on and so forth, there have been 50 different people who viewed that page since the beginning of January. So there are people looking at it, but if there are 168 schools teaching RE, that still leaves more than 2/3 not having access to the resources that SACRE have provided.
It's clear.
Can I ask a question? When heads teachers have their meetings, could there be a reminder to head teachers? Or do you always do that every time? And you
single
say that.
one. They always get a reminder because obviously with wearing both hats,
Yes,
then it's very
that's
easy
one of
for me
the
to
topics
remind
to say. Yeah, I thought you'd probably say yes,
There's
but I
been
was going to
postcards handed out. There has been lots of reminders.
ask the question.
So yes, we will continue to remind head teachers as well.
Beginning and the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, training available to SACRE. For members to note future training sessions and discuss any completed sessions. I think some have sent them into Rebecca. So future ones are the 25th of February 2025 between 7 and 8 on being an effective SACRE clerk. That's you, Rebecca. And then the 11th of March 2025 between 7 and 8, working on an agreed syllabus conference, supports and processes, and there's various dates in April 2025, 6:30 to 8, SACRE in conversation. And if anyone attends any, if you could send them through to Rebecca to log. All right, any questions from anyone? Yes.
Just to say, sorry,
Just
Question, it was just a note. Newcastle Durham Diocese, they're running an RE conference on the 5th of June this year. There's a guest speaker coming now. I know it's a different syllabus, I completely understand that. but actually a lot of the bits which go behind the good quality teaching of RE, it doesn't matter which syllabus you're looking at, you good quality teaching. So it might be something that some people might be interested in attending.
Is that online or is it just?
The JET team, Caswea, who's our consultant here, she's running it.
Oh, okay.
There, so, but there is a guest speaker, but it's the 5th of June.
5th of June.
I can get the details
If you
today
could.
if you want.
Yes, please.
Would that help? Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to advertise it.
Yeah.
To
Nice one.
get the numbers up on behalf of the diocese as well.
You are a very kind man, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions of Claire?
I'm looking at Rebecca as well. For the national issues, I know it's the next one, but as far as I was concerned, Rebecca, I'm looking at you here. The SACRE in conversation for the North East is the 20th of March.
Well, that's the next item.
No, but you said various dates in April, but that is the date, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
That it's going to be actually March, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so Claire is picking up things to put in into the
Thank you. So as I just said about the SACRE in conversation on the 20th of March. And also just to highlight, there's a conference, the national conference in Stratford Town Hall, Stratford, London on the 19th of May. I know I've been asked to look at the briefings, but there hasn't been a briefing for 2025 yet. And that's one's come out today when I haven't looked at the website. So I will get in touch with anything that I think that is important.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's as much as I can do at the moment.
Great.
That's very good. Thank you for keeping an eye on that. That's good. So that was pages 31 to 32, item 14. So the only other thing we have is item 15, any urgent business, if there's any.
Can I just ask, with regard to Stuart Dearlove resigning, is there a new candidate to replace him coming forward from is it the Humanists, I think he was?
Yes.
Becca has approached the Humanist Society. They don't have somebody from within Northumberland that is willing to, so they have asked if they can go further afield, to which we've said absolutely. So, yes.
Thank you.
The Humanist Society are looking out for a new rep for us.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, so that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.